Everyone, I'm Kirsten Kirschbaum. Super excited to be here with you this morning on this lovely day. I have the privilege of interviewing one of my very best friends, Danielle Daniel. Good morning.
Morning, everybody. Great to be on here with you. Thanks, Kirsten, for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Danielle and I have put together a power-packed 30 minutes for you where we are going to dive into exactly how she has created her life and business from being a licensed clinical social worker, working in high schools in San Diego, getting her master's degree, getting her doctorate, and incorporating her research in essential oils and the brain and how many people can overcome, addictions and, different mental health disorders and things like that using essential oils, and while creating a business that she is now created financial freedom for herself and her life to travel and to serve in all the ways that she wants to. So you were in for a real treat. I'm just going to give her just a moment just to say hello and, give a shout out to anyone and welcome everyone. Welcome Sherry. She's on with us live. I'm sure there will be lots of people when you guys jump on live, or even if you're catching the recording, go ahead and shoot us some comments and say hello. We'd love to hear from you. So Danielle.
Hi. Yeah. Thanks so much for being on. It's really fun. I love that when, Kirsten and I met actually in San Diego. We went to San Diego State together and became like besties. And then she moved to Vegas and abandoned me here. Just kidding. San Diego's not a bad place to be abandoned. So I was doing my, master's when we met in social work, and I became a licensed clinical social worker. Wah! And I have kitty cats that like to jump around at everything. So you can say, hello, this is Liberty. They like my little tag here, my little string here going on. So I started getting my master's, and then I did my licensed clinical social worker, and I had always used oils, about 20 years of using oils. So got started, with using them in my office after I found the power of doTERRA essential oils. And I started using those in my clinical practice, just diffusing them for my patients and my clients. And it was just amazing, sometimes it was these big changes that were like, whoa, like what the heck? And then sometimes they're just these slight changes, but something so profound that I'd never seen a client be able to smile before, for example. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow. I was just writing down, I'm writing notes as you're talking to ask questions. So slight changes like your client was never able to smile before. That is actually really profound. That's amazing. So let's go to your career previous to doTERRA. So like you said, you got your master's degree, you're an Lcsw. So what did you want to be when you grew up? Like talk to us about, the day you were born. No, I'm just kidding. Talk to us about previous to even getting your master's degree. Like what were some of the goals that you had in a career that led you to be an Lcsw?
That was a good question. So when I was young, I always knew I wanted to be in healthcare, something related, because of just the interest in the body. I took an anatomy class, which I thought was going to gross me out like no other. And it didn't. It was so fascinating. There's no blood, so that was nice. I knew early on the blood and the nursing stuff was just something my stomach couldn't do. My heart goes out to all those that can do. It's amazing. But I wanted to be in something in medical or healthcare. And I served a service mission for my church down in South America. And I loved serving the people. We worked among the poor, and it just turned my heart into social work. And so that's where I went for my degree in social work. It's got such a broad range of things you can do, and then became licensed as a mental health clinician. And then, ultimately what I wanted to be, and what I still want to be when I grow up. So I'm doing my doctorate. And wanted to be, a psychologist. So honestly, I had never imagined, adding a business. I was a pure sign me up to work at a clinic and just tell me, I'll work 9 to 5. I just wasn't, I was in this mindset of that's how psychotherapists, that's how we earn income. Either, private practice or whatever, a clinic. But so I was doing my doctorate to make more money. And then one day I found out that I was already getting paid really high as an Lcsw because I was good. No, actually, it was just, I had been there a long time. And so anyway, I was getting paid the highest at my price range. And I realized that when I got my doctorate in clinical psychology in that same company, my pay raise would be $10. an hour. And I was like, ooh, it's a lot of years and a lot of money for a doctor for $10. So it just started like spinning. I knew I had a lot to offer in the world in regards to like behavior and suicidal ideation, a lot of mental health knowledge that I had been able to apply in a high-risk high school. This school was not your typical. We had a lot of immigrants and refugees and just come from Somalia, Sudan, like very rough backgrounds, and Vietnam, Haiti, just amazing what they have been through and their mindset. And so I was dealing with suicidal ideation on a daily basis and homicidal ideation on a frequent basis and psychosis regularly and violence and abuse, just tons of things. And so I knew I wanted to give back in some way that people could have a way to learn from this experience and learn from it. And, you know, I had imagined doing a business, and then Kirsten said, well, you should do, you know, some essential oils. And I'm like, no, I use them, but I'm not going to do a business with it. I'm a therapist. I just remember thinking that just made no sense to me. Nothing. It didn't make any sense with my career until she said, well, you can incorporate them, you know, with, you know, mental health. And I was like, oh yeah, duh. So it really dawned on me that they go hand in hand. And so as I've continued to pursue my doctorate, I started doing the research studies and just doing analysis over those research studies that have been done. There's hundreds and hundreds of them on oils and the brain. And I love it. So that's kind of what I've created, is this whole niche of emotions and essential oils, but from a research standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to, I just realized you were actually the very first person to share essential oils with me. And I remember you telling me, oh, you could put some of this lemon or grapefruit in your water. And of course I'm in college and I'm like, will it make me skinny? And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, awesome, sign me up. I want that. So I've been putting lemon and grapefruit in my water for quite some time now. And you were that first person to share that with me. But let's go to your own personal experience with essential oils. Like, what have you loved about using them just as an individual? What oils do you use every day? Or, you know what I mean? Like, take us through. I think we all want to know, what is Danielle Daniel using to be so smart and so beautiful?
Well, frankincense for the brain. That makes you smart. No, so yeah, I grew up using essential oils. My mama was a massage therapist, hippie mama, and just always introduced us. So my mindset, even as I went into the, you know, medical field, was what can we do naturally to complement? It's not necessarily, they are different. You know, medication, it's not in lieu of, as it's actually very different, but it's a complement. Just like you wouldn't just take a medication and not eat, you know, green, healthy salad. Essential oils to me are like the nutrients. They have molecules. They don't have nutrients. They have molecules that interact with our chemistry in our body. And they're just that complement that you need. So anyway, so growing up with that, when I got into the clinic world, it was, you know, like, well, how do I just, you know, how do I tell these people about complementary medicine? And I was able to do that through my business. And that's one really big draw, is to pull people to be able to teach them into essential oils in the brain, is through my business aspect. Because in the clinic aspect, it is a little bit harder. I would diffuse them and see the differences and make, you know, notes of them. But then my business is where I really educated on psychoaromatherapy, is what I call it. So as far as oils that I use, I know. So I do remember telling Kirsten about grapefruit. It helps with your cellulite reduction. So, so we always drink grapefruit, you know. But my personal regimen, I mean, frankincense, I use that pretty much every day. You know, the one that I've really been using lately every day is copaiba. So I had a surgery about 6-8 months ago now. And it was pretty, you know, serious one on my belly, on my ovaries. And I've had to heal from that. But it's interesting, like, I've had so many other it's like all these nuts and bolts went loose after that surgery. And so my wrists have been hurting, my shoulder and like my low back. I'm like, oh my gosh. So the copaiba has been really comforting all those areas. I went to bed last night and my wrist hurt so bad I could barely move it. And every time I did, it was like excruciating. And so I grabbed the copaiba and I was like, oh, it's going to be a hard night of sleep, because I've done this before. And every time I move my arm in the night, I'm like, ow, you know. Anyway, I put the copaiba on. I just went to sleep. I woke up this morning, feels really good. I can move it down. And
Nice.
I love that it can just help bring, blood to that area and help your discomfort in your body go away. I love that.
Yeah, that's so cool. Thank you. I'm sure there are many, many oils that, you use. And I really like that story, especially because it's just current and relevant and totally meaningful to you. So that's beautiful. So let's go to when you finally decided that doTERRA was something you wanted to take a look at. So again, as a therapist, as someone who's a professional, you're already successful in your career, you're making good money, you're an independent, strong woman, doing your thing. And what was it? Like, what piqued your interest in the beginning that got you to kind of go over it? Because I think there's a lot of people that are on here that are watching live or later who are kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I've kind of wondered if I could do something, but what was that for you that kind of was that turning point?
That's a really good question, because I was pretty resistant I had no idea how, Kirsten and I went to San Diego State. She got a degree in business. I got a degree in social work. So, I had no background or even idea. And so it really didn't appeal to me. And I just knew how to do psychotherapy and crisis intervention. So what really got me started, it was a kind of a stepping stone, because for me, I knew I wanted to use oils in my practice. I knew that they made a difference, because when I used other brands before, I actually never brought them into my office, because I didn't notice a big potency to even think that they would be, brilliant enough to bring in. And it was when I started using doTERRA. And I remember I bought a peppermint from Kirsten, a little intro pack. And it was the peppermint essential oil. And I had used peppermint my whole life. I get this peppermint, and I have a Charlie horse that happened in my quads after dance. I would get it all the time, and I would use oils on it that weren't doTERRA, and it just would kind of ease it. But I would just sit on the couch like waiting for these Charlie horses to go away. And I thought, well, I'm going to try doTERRA's peppermint. I'm sure it's the same thing. It was not the same thing. It was so pure and potent. It did what it was supposed to do. I put one drop in my hand, put it on my quads, and within 3 minutes, and I'm not even joking, my whole leg relaxed, and I could function again. And so that was a big turning point to go, whoa, okay, these oils have something. So from that experience, I started taking them into my office. And because I was in my doctorate, I was doing some research on what helps with anxious emotions, for example, because most of my clients are dealing with a lot of anxiety. So I would start bringing in oils. I would bring in lavender and citruses. Those were my top two for diffusing. And I'd see these little changes in these teenagers that you can't force their mood to change. Anybody have teenage kids? You can't force their mood. And they just loved the diffuser, and they would start smiling, start talking more openly. I just saw these changes in them that were something I hadn't seen before. So that was really cool. And when I noticed it big time is when I had a client that came in that said, hey, where's your diffuser thing? We were talking, it's a teenage boy who plays football. And he's like, where's your diffuser thing? It's like a teenage boy, like a football boy, does not normally ask for a diffuser unless they really notice it's a difference. So, okay, so that led me to that, to really start researching it. And once I got into that, I realized the power and the education that is needed out there from anyone with experience, and then from someone in the therapy world. And so for me, it fit right in to be able to provide a business structure outside of my clinical practice to provide information and education and webinars, and just in people's homes. I just teach them how to use essential oil to really manage our emotions.
Simple. Yeah, absolutely. So I remember this specific experience when I had invited you to come and listen to Dr. Hill up in Orange County or something like that. Will you talk a little bit? Yeah, LA. Talk a little bit about that experience also, meeting the chief medical officer of doTERRA and kind of seeing how that could all play into what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kirsten invites me up to Los Angeles. It was in a hotel by the airport. I remember it was a far drive from San Diego because of traffic. And I was like, well, I'm going to go up to hang out with Kirsten. I don't care about, the oil lecture. I was just going to hang out to be with Kirsten, and we were going to dinner, and she made it sound all glamorous, and it was, but it was so much fun. And we had a great time. And while we were there, Dr. Hill, he's the chief medical advisor for doTERRA, he spoke about the difference that doTERRA is doing in the medical community. And it really wasn't just some frou-frou, let's just play around and, throw little flower blossoms here and there. They really were researching with legit, like well-renowned hospitals, how the essential oils can work for our bodies and for our brains. And it made me, because I'm in my doctorate, just made me go, oh my gosh, absolutely. Like I've always my whole life wanted to be involved with a movement that is holistic, that is natural, and this is it. And I'm so glad to be involved with doTERRA because of that. So that got me wanting to use them as a professional. And then I'm just going to kind of piggyback on the business side of it. Mm-hmm. So that was in May, about 6 years ago now. And that got me wanting to use them as a professional even more, just researching. And I wasn't in the business mindset yet, but it was about 2 weeks later that I was somewhere with my family, and this is over by Lake Mead. And my brother-in-law, who has run business his whole life, and they do similar business as doTERRA's company, doTERRA's business model. And he does it as well with his whole family. And they've always had a lot of money, but they've also had a lot of freedom. He gets to just spend so much time with my sister and their kids, and I just love that he gets to be the stay-at-home dad, and she gets to be the stay-at-home world. I love that lifestyle. And I remember I'm sitting by the pool, and this is over in Lake Mead, which is by Vegas. So I told Kirsten had come over, and I'm sitting there watching him do a business phone call real quick, and then come over by the pool, and I was like, that'd be so nice to work like that by a pool in a resort, And I thought, he is so lucky. And it was funny because that was my automatic thought. I didn't cognitively like conjure that up. I really thought it was just luck that he got to like have this type of a career. And then I went, wait a second. That's exactly what Kirsten's been telling me about, the same business model. I can do it with something I love, like essential oils. And that was my moment. Switched me. I went full in to like educate the world on natural methods for the brain, and created a lifestyle that I saw my brother-in-law have, and now I get to have it. And it's just, anybody can. You just have to believe it. You just have to switch that little automatic thought.
It's interesting how you work so much with the brain and with helping others overcome, beliefs and different conditions. And then you had this moment yourself where you're like, wait a second, I need to take some of my own advice. So I love how you've talked quite a bit about complementary medicine and how you have been able to create this business from your practice before. So if you could like get a little more detailed about the transition of what that looked like for you. How many hours did you spend? Why did you spend those hours? You know what I mean? Because really you're still working full time in your career, right? And then managing all the other things that you do. Like for those of us who are listening who are thinking, so what does that step-by-step look like? Take us through that.
Yeah. And, I just want to say, like, I'm no different than anybody else. It's all about your own initiative and just doing it. And that's what's so cool, is because I did think before I was different. I thought, my brother-in-law's lucky. God was like, let's plant you here so you can make money, and you here so you can't. Has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with your own desire and initiative. That's really the key. And so once I made that switch, and I knew I could create like financial freedom and time freedom, to really be whatever I want to be in this world in regards to mental health as a therapist, whatever I can do whatever I want now. But what happened was I was working full time and doing a doctorate. I wasn't automatically just going to switch careers. And so it was nice to actually, my current job that I was in, I have a whole network of people that love, to learn about the brain and natural methods. So what I started to do was just reach out to the therapists around me in my office. And I'll tell you about one therapist that ended up being in my business with me. She's one of my business partners. And just the people in the counseling office. And I just started to tell them, hey, I just shared, like you share a good movie. was like, hey, did you see Avatar? Totally cool. No, I would say, hey, have you ever heard of lavender, for this? And they would like, oh, I was like, here, try it. You can borrow my diffuser. And I just was doing things I could to help the other therapists and counselors around me and teachers, obviously, because I was in a high-risk high school. So I was just doing what I could to lend the diffuser and lend oils and just help them help other people. And then inviting them to come to one of my little educational free classes, which I did once a week. So I pretty much did, I would say, 2 hours a day at least in my business. And so during the day I was working. In between working or at lunch, of course, I'm talking and just naturally would talk with people anyway. I just talk to them about oils now. And then in the evenings, I get off like at 4, so 4 to 6, let's just say, I would be doing work. I'd be following up people, reminding people about maybe an event I have, or connecting with people, maybe going to dinner with someone, or doing a class. So I spent about 2 hours a day doing that types of stuff. Yeah. So that's kind of how I built it. I just want to kind of finish sharing about the one therapist next door to me. So Virginia Lopez, and she's just one of my amazing business partners. We were such good friends at the high school. We leaned on each other. I'd say I leaned on her the most because she had been a therapist longer than me. She retired herself from Children's Hospital now because of doing the essential oils, which is great. And I'd go in her office consistently, like, okay, I've got this client, she's cutting, she's saying this and this and this, this is what my procedure, what I did. And just kind of, we'd always give each other, back and forth feedback. And she was just me. She's so cute. Yep, absolutely. And we would just lean on each other all the time for mental health. So when I started doing the oils, I'm like, hey, Virginia. And she's just like, that's cool. What do you want me to do? I'll help you. She wasn't interested in herself. Like, it's a progression for your life when you can see how it can fit in. So she introduced me to Children's Hospital. We did a whole presentation there for the grand rounds, for the psychiatric grand rounds, and for her team. Her psychotherapy team that she works with, the psychiatrists and other psychologists. So we did a couple different things there and just shared the oils. And she was like, this is awesome. I'm like, I know. So now we're business partners. We both now retired ourselves from our jobs, but now we connect and talk, every single week as business partners and consult on this level. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. I get to know Virginia also, and I'm so privileged to get to learn from her. And she's actually speaking now at one of the large corporate events coming up, right? She's going to be educating people on a large scale about essential oils and everything that she's created. So it's amazing to see that ripple effect. So we have a few more minutes here. Wanted to ask, so let's kind of pull back the curtains now, right? So currently, what has building this business in doTERRA alongside of your doctorate, alongside of all the things that you're doing, what has it meant for your life? What are you able to do now that maybe you weren't able to do before? Who are you able to serve now that maybe you weren't able to serve before in those different ways? So just give us an idea of what that looks like now.
Yeah, it's been such a blessing, and building a business is definitely hard. I spent more time, building my business for sure than working a 40-hour-a-week job, but you're working at home. And I love that aspect of it, is that I get to work at home, or if I want to be on the road, I can work from France. It doesn't really matter. You just get to work internationally with people. And I love that aspect, the freedom. The other thing, I was going to say on that is, in October of last year, I had a pretty major surgery that put me out for a couple months. And I can't tell you how nice it was just to have the same big paycheck come in, even though I was doing nothing. I mean, I was flat on my back and having pain even getting off my bed. But that it was just such a beautiful thing to have had this financial freedom set up for myself to be able to, live a life that I've always wanted to live. Another, dream that I just got to fulfill just this weekend, so I have to share, is I've wanted to travel a camper van, like a travel trailer or something my whole life. I've just thought that'd be so fun to have your own house on wheels and your own bathroom. I would stay at hotels. And so I've been so excited about it. And I actually purchased one this weekend. So
Yes.
it's like another thing off my dream board. Check. I'm like, what else is possible? But in regards to answering what I've been able to do as a mental health therapist, what's great is when you have a little bit more time freedom and financial freedom, you can actually give yourself more to the world. And I'll tell you what I did. One thing I did last year, and I'm going to repeat again this following year, is I called it the Holistic Emotional Wellness Summit. And I invited about 30 professionals in the mental health world to speak on their subject, whether it was domestic violence, abuse, we had PTSD, and we just did this huge summit. The price was only, I think it was $35 or $39, something like that, to register. And the entire amount of money that everybody registered for, we all donated our time. I organized the whole thing. And then all these professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors got together, donated their time. And then we ended up being able to give our rescue, which is Operation Underground, which fights against child sex trafficking. We were able to donate almost $20,000 to them. And
oh my gosh.
Awesome. Like just being able to have the time to get the website set up, orchestrate, the entire summit, and then have all these people come together from all over the world to watch it who contributed to almost $20,000 donation. It was just a beautiful thing to be a part of.
That is amazing. I'm like shocked right now. I didn't realize that was the result that came from that. That is so beautiful. That reminds me, you've also been able to travel and you went to Nepal, right? Maybe talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, another thing that drew me, because I remember when I was getting my Lcsw at the time, actually, and I had printed off and I was researching all these little different humanitarian trips I could do as a social worker. But again, they are expensive sometimes, and it's also a lot of time off. And so it just was always a difficult dream to make happen in my scenario of 8 to 5 with 2 weeks vacation a year. And it's not impossible, but it was pretty tight. And now with the career, I've been able to do humanitarian work. And so doTERRA actually goes, and they already have it all set up, and it's affordable price, but you get to go to these different countries and work with the people. So I got to go to Nepal and work in a remote little town that was just beautiful with greenery and, dirt everywhere, but it was just amazing. These people that would just say namaste to you when coming and going into their little town. And we helped build the school. It was full on like hauling cement, which was kind of fun.
Wow. Yeah.
Kind of hard too, but, and then painting their school. And we got to we slept on sleeping bags on the ground of their school and showered in these little tents. Tent showers, not showers, I'm sorry. We took a bucket and poured it over our heads in a tent. Yes. It was amazing. And so, now being able to do the humanitarian piece, which for therapists and for most of us, just our heart, it just speaks to our heart, being able to serve. That's really a big piece of what we're here on this earth for. So it's just, beautiful.
Absolutely. It is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So there's quite a few questions that are coming up. So I'm just going to give you guys a fair warning. If you have a question for Danielle, go ahead and post it here. I'm going to take the few questions that we have time for. I've seen some good ones coming up, but I have another question for you. So I know that you have created some really amazing resources, and this is one of the questions that's coming up on the comments. How do we get a hold of Danielle? How do we learn more from her? What other resources does she have that we can check out? So please let the people know how they can learn more from you.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to be connected with everybody. So I have a couple different places where I do some free stuff. For example, my website, if you go to danielledr.com, on the home page, there's a free download, and it's a brain chemistry and oils download. And so that'll get you started on how to use essential oils for different things for the brain. I also have a lot of handouts and tear pads that I've created, which you'll also find on my website. And then my Facebook page, which is it's whole psych, HOLPSYCH. So facebook.com/, Whole Psych, HOLPSYCH. I do Brain Talk Tuesdays. So every Tuesday,
Okay.
10 a.m. And you can join me live, and I just take a different subject from the brain and talk to you about it. So, yeah.
Nice. 10 a.m. Pacific, right?
Yes, Pacific.
Okay. That's so great. I love it. Thank you for that. So there's a girl. Where did it go? Where did it go? Hold on. Now I'm scrolling through. Oh, here we go. It sounds so easy. She commented that when you were talking about making the transition from, you know, like your full-time work into doing doTERRA, right? So was it easy? And maybe pull back the curtain a little bit further as far as how that all works.
Expose myself.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't, it was easy. Here's what's hard is when you get in your own head. And so it's easy if you can just keep your own head, your negativity, the head of your negativity from your head out of the way, because it's easy because all you're doing is talking to people about oils. But then when people, let's say I hold classes, right? I hold a class every single week for people. I had sometimes people not show up. And so this is why I tell you, it's easy. I'm just there. No one showed up. Oh, well, big deal. Go on and do another class. But the brain gets in the way, and the brain's like, oh, this isn't working. You're not going to get somewhere, right? So you've got like your positive psychology and your negative psychology going on. And the hard part of it is only avoiding the negative psychology and just telling it to shut up.
I got to write that down.
Other than that, it is easy if you just lean on your positive psychology.
I love that you call it that too. Just I'm writing it down. Your negative psychology. So great. Thank you. It's a great point. Easier said than done for sure. But I think when you have your tools, right? Like an exercise that oh, I'm feeling negative. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this oil. I'm going to call this friend. I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like realize, what it is that's kind of talking to me and, be aware of my surroundings and all that. So anyway.
Let me interject.
Yes.
I did use Kirsten a lot during this negative psychology time. And I do remember, I think it was 1 month I made like $50 and worked like probably 100 hours. I don't know. I'm using an extreme example, but I called Kirsten. I'm like, I'm not making any money. She's like, okay, well, let's look at your check. What did you make? I'm like, $50. She goes, that's $50. And I'm like, that's not much for how much time. She's like, yeah, but it's $50 more than you ever made before. And I'm like, okay, you're right. So, I mean, it is nice to have a friend that can point you in the right direction to really see the long-term vision. And there was a point right before being able to quit, because you start growing a really big business, a really big clientele, and people need a lot of things. And I'm working full-time and doing a doctorate. And so it was right before I started making about $5,000 a month. It was right before that, because about $5,000-6,000 a month I was able to quit when my business made gross that much. And I was about to make that much, but I wasn't quite yet. And so I was juggling. And I remember feeling, and I moved. Don't ask me why. I bought my first house and like moved at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was just so much at once. But if you keep going, it works out. You'll get through it. And life is not meant to be a Disney cruise where it's just easy. A lot of times you have to row so much harder than you do other times. And you just have to have that vision in sight.
I love that. Yeah. It's like you're on the Disney cruise and you're rowing, and it's like, no, row faster. You're almost there.
Mickey Mouse cheering you on.
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to fall down the waterfall. No, you're not. Don't stop paddling. Oh, I love it. That's so great. I saw, and if you guys have other questions too, please always. Rachel wants to know, did you use any certain oils to help? What oils? I know you kind of mentioned this in your practice, but what's your go-to oil for positive psychology? Like, do you have one right now or back then? I know for me it changes. So for me right now, Elevation is my best friend. But for you, what do you like?
Yeah, I've got a couple that I probably lean on the most, but I do like to mix it up. Like right before I mixed it up this morning, right before this talk, I put on neroli. I rolled it on neroli. But I would say my go-to for women and men hormone balancing, Clary Calm.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime I'm feeling irritable, I put a little bit of that on, and it takes that irritability away, and I'm able to think clearly again. So I would say Clary Calm, and it's not just for women. It is so good for balancing hormones overall. So Clary Calm, and then the other one I would pull on is Citrus Bliss. It's my favorite.
Oh,
I love it. And it's just, you can't help but feel happy when you smell it. So
that one's in my
too.
Thank you. Thank you. So same girl is actually asking, as far as your event that you did, your online event, do you have it scheduled? Where do you hold this? Is it annual? Do you know yet when it's going to be again?
Planning on doing it again next year. So we did it last year, and then because I'm finishing up my doctorate this year, it's a little much on my plate. So staying focused. So I will start planning it again for next year. I have a website for it, and again, it's not functioning right now because it's got the old stuff on it, but it's holisticemotionalwellness.com. The way to really stay connected is through my Facebook page or my email system. When you do the free download on my homepage, on my website, danielledr.com, then you'll get in my email system. And when I have that summit, and we've always find a worthy cause to donate all the money. I'm not making money off this. This is just pure donation. So we will let you guys know, because we know everybody loves to help out in an easy way. So this will be great. So I will keep everybody informed.
Beautiful. So last question. So now that you have created this life that you have, and it's beautiful, and it's really, you're checking things off your vision board, and you're so happy in the way that you're able to serve and contribute, why do you keep going? Are you going to continue building doTERRA? And if so, then why?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to continue. I had a new business partner of mine who got started, and I was telling her I was doing my doctorate, and she goes, "Oh, so when you finish your doctorate, are you going to quit doTERRA?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm finishing my doctorate just to finish my doctorate." But no, doTERRA, I absolutely will always keep informing people of what they can do for the brain. I've had way too many amazing experiences with kiddos that I've worked with, or with families I've worked with over the phone, of using the oils and having breakthroughs. One lady else shared, she was in suicide and connected with me. Her son had died a year before, and she was just, I mean, you can imagine, a very sad and emotional from that experience. She was still grieving and just having a really hard time wanting to get out of bed. It was really hard for her to bury her son, and I can't even imagine what she went through. And so what we did, we set up a little regimen. I told her to do frankincense underneath her tongue every single morning. And I told her to diffuse lemon every single morning and lavender every night. And what was amazing is that she hadn't been able to sleep since his death. She was so grieved and so much turmoil, she could hardly sleep every single night. She struggled with sleep. And we just, from those simple things, frankincense under the tongue, lemon in the diffuser, and lavender at night, either on her feet or in the diffuser, I told her. She called me 2 days after she got her oils and started her regimen, and said she finally was able to sleep. And that morning she was diffusing lemon. She felt happy for the first time since her son's death. And that's why I do what I do. Like, how could this lady have gone on with, sure, maybe she could have gotten on some type of medication to help a little bit too, but this was different. This was just, she needed some peace. And that's what oils do. They bring that peace of mind that you're looking for. And so that's why I continue, and I won't stop even with the doctorate. I'll just keep doing it.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I know that there are many of your team members on here giving you shout outs and love, and are certainly grateful for the work that you have done. And I know that I will be forever grateful for our relationship in working together, and really just looking to bless other people's lives, right? That's what it's about for us at this point, whether that's on a health and emotional, physical level, and also from a business standpoint. There are many people who are hurting and looking for freedom in their lives, and that's what we're all about, right? So yep. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I know you're busy with everything you're creating, and we certainly appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you so much. So great to be on with you. Bye, everybody. Thanks again for being on.
Bye, guys.